lose all your mana in a team fight as OD. Unless you're extremely unlucky.
I still wouldn't be surprised if they ran Morphling too.
Morph?
Just because it's LGD.
Is it Morph also bad against?
Yeah, Morphing is also bad versus.
I feel like
OD.
their carry has to have some sort of control, else they're 100% relying control-wise on Ravage and the Disruptor.
But if they
It's
if
not
they go
reliable
Lycan, they
enough.
can rush so easily. Oh, it is Morph. Wow. Okay.
This is so greedy.
Oh no. Don't know about that, but it's still okay if they want to push, because Morphing, you know how Morphing fits into a push strat is you can always take care of the other lanes with Replicate, so you make sure the lanes are pushed out, so the whole team can find a better timing to actually run down the lane, and you just have a better momentum in the game. So in case the enemy is like pushing with Prophet, you can defend with Morphing and Replicate to the lane where your team is pushing.
It's really good with Chen too.
10 seconds remaining.
Is it time for the first AA pick of the tournament? Dun, dun, dun.
Yeah, A is actually
Yeah, I
really
like
good
A.
versus their heroes.
No.
Lion.
Okay.
A lion
It was not
grab.
time.
Oh, it's not time.
For MVP, this will conclude our draft. And gentlemen, now that we see the 5-on-5 spread, I start in the end. Synderin, is it going to be LGD on the back of their Sylar Morphling and the Chen we have not seen from this roster in this patch, or will it be MVP with their precious QO Ember Spirit and OD?
I really like the Chen pick, but I think they took it too much in a greedy, passive direction with the last two heroes. So I'm worried for LGD that they're just going to get pressured way too hard in the first 15 minutes MVP style. So I'm going with MVP.
Draskell, do you agree with this?
Are we doing the coach, assistant coach thing again? Because if so, I agree with coach. Definitely MVP.
All right. Sounds like we got that team set over there. How about you, Ben?
In Sylar we trust.
In Sylar, we trust. Oh, so maybe the
10
MVP
seconds
fire
remaining.
will be extinguished. What about for you, sir? Mr. Winder?
I actually think this time
seconds
MVP would actually be steamrolling them in the early game, because like what Cinderella mentioned, what they chose for as their last two picks were a little too greedy, and it's going to be really hard for them in the early game.
We'll see if that's going to be the case or not. Game one is set for our second best of three for the Shanghai Major. We'll hand it over to our casters now. It's everyone's favorite casting duo. It's Blitz and Cap. Gentlemen, enjoy MVP versus LGD.
Thank you, Dakota. We most certainly will, as this is one of the most interesting matchups you're going to be seeing in the upper brackets. A full storyline here, as LGD have quite the legacy that they're going to be upholding throughout this time, and MVP, well, they're the kind of younger upstarts who are trying to be able to prove themselves in a big tournament like this.
Yeah, for sure. You've got players like QO, who's got a lot to prove. He opted not to go to school and continue to play Dota against the wishes, I think, of his family. But they weren't able to make it to the last major in Frankfurt, but they were able to make it to this one, so I know they want to make a big splash. And in general, I think
30
they have a lot to
seconds to
prove.
battle.
They had the top 8 run that they made at TI, and they want to show that it wasn't just a fluke.
Absolutely, especially since they lost March, and that was obviously a big part of them being able to have such a great run at TI. Of course, LGD, since we've seen many of the Chinese teams have been faring a bit poor here, a lot of this comes back to their performance and seeing how well they're going to be able to adapt. We are going to have an early fight here as MVP. This is going to be really interesting. The casket is bouncing around quite a lot in the background. They're going to try and go for maybe first, but he is one of those tankier heroes. MVP not fully committing to anything here, just zoning back LGD. They managed to pick up their bounty rune, and they'll call it a day. Both bounty runes going to MVP.
Yeah, it looks like it's going to be a mid-Ember and a safe lane OD. And I was telling you and Shiver before the game, at first I thought it was going to be very farm-heavy from MVP. But that's only if you decide to put the Ember mid, or the Ember safe lane. If you put the Ember safe lane, then you kind of represent that you're going to go later on into the game. And if you go for the Ember mid, then you have a bit more of tempo control, and you can kind of push your advantages a little bit further with the OD.
I really did feel that that was going to be their plan as well, especially with the way that LGD are thinking about the way that they set up so much early team fight. I thought that was a good way to kind of stem the early aggression that we saw from MVP in the group stage. You know, they would just run at you, and they would play so crisp and clean that it was hard to be able to maintain control of the game. I felt like heroes like, I wasn't sure about the Disruptor, but definitely the Tidehunter and Chen were good heroes to be able to kind of stem that aggression. But it seemed like MVP Phoenix, perhaps in their first 4, were going, all right, that's fine. We'll actually switch things up on you, go late game. But we could see with the Morphling pickup, maybe things have changed around a little bit, and putting that Ember Spirit mid will mean we have a good tempo controlling hero for QO to try and start this game out right for MVP.
I think the one thing that's a pretty big characteristic about MVP is that they don't really care about the cooldowns that they fight around. And that's something that LGD have to respect. that's the one downside of LGD's lineup that the panel mentioned. So much of it revolves around how much this Tidehunter can do with the Ravages that you have available. And LGD, they're going to have to use the Chen to kind of set the tempo and use the Tidehunter to secure the team fights. Like, the first few team fights in this game are going to change so much. Like, if MVP can get away with it somewhat of an even trade after the first Ravage and kind of push on through, LGD is going to be in some trouble.
It's going to be especially hard for a Chen to be able to maintain that kind of early control, seeing as MVP do have some strong heroes versus it. They've got the Witch Doctor with the Paralyzing Cast being a good way to control those early creeps, but you also have the Nature's Prophet, who I think is also a pretty decent pickup against Chen in certain ways, in that it's able to always be able to exert some sort of global control, which does help in dealing with the Chen's early ganks, perhaps.
Yeah. Forev, going to get harassed out a lot by MMY. Is Disruptor is one of those solo supports that is just super annoying to play against in general for the offlane role.
Thunderstrike doing so much damage. It does 160 damage over time at level 1. It's one of the stronger level 1 abilities you can get your hands on. And then later on, if he gets level 3, he can potentially have 2 levels of Glimpse already and have that long range, or maybe a level in Kinetic Field. Either way is going to be a good way to actually keep Rev locked in. And we do know he's facing up against the heavy, hard-hitting Morphling, which is also one of the tougher carries to go up against. While he may not be able to provide his own disables of any kind, he just hits hard with the nuke as well as a lot of right-click damage.
Yeah. And something I really like about MVP Phoenix's lineup is this is a complete change of pace. In the group stage, we saw them almost exclusively play this, we're never going to jungle, we're just going to run at you style.
Yep.
But this time around, it feels like they made adjustments, and they don't want to just be one-dimensional coming into this tournament. I know for the group stage, they wanted to play really fast. Like, Kyo even told me that their plan was to go for this kind of like 10-minute style where they just won really aggressively. But this time around, they're showcasing, the other tempo, the ability to go later on into the game so that teams just don't think if they hold the line that they can win.
Yeah, I mean, that's actually what I thought LGD were going to be doing the best of, was sitting back and being able to just kind of like control out the game. But I'm really surprised that MVP Phoenix did switch things around so much on us, but it does show at least an attempt at versatility. We'll see whether or not they're able to execute with the same kind of crispness that we saw in the group stage. Looking at LGD's lineup, though, laning phase-wise, this does seem to be pretty good for them. They have the Razor matched up against the Ember Spirit. We talked about how hard that lane's going to be for the Furion. They also have a jungler. It seems like LGD should be able to get off to a pretty good start here.
What did the analyst panel say? Who did Synderen said that MVP would win, right? And so did Driscoll. Who did Winter say would win? You said MVP. Oh,
only Ben said.
Okay,
LGD.
so then MVP won for sure. So I was just gonna go against whatever Ben said and go with Winter. So I was like, normally that's like an okay plan. It was like, Winter tells me Fnatic is gonna show up and play a decent style. I'm like, you're a clown, Winter.
I like how you switched things up. Last time around, you were flaming Winter's picks no matter what. Now you're changing it over to Ben Wu.
Yeah, I mean, you just gotta rotate the BTS circle of hate. It's like a rotisserie chicken, You just keep turning that thing.
You can't keep it on one side for too long.
Yeah,
you
exactly.
have to even it out in order to really get that nice flavor. Sylar Morphling.
It's a classic.
It really is.
Winner of this, remember, is going to play against Liquid, I believe. Loser,
Who do you think has a better chance against Liquid
who
between
has a
these
better
two teams?
chance? I think MVP does. I think Liquid would prefer playing LGD.
Is it due to the fact that MVP can play so quickly and are one of those tempo controlling teams?
I think we just don't have enough data on them. Whereas for LGD, things are a lot more stable. Like Ben was able to call their Morphling last pick. Like they pigeonhole themselves a little bit more than I feel MVP does.
How did you feel about the Disruptor first pick, by the way, in response to the Furion? They picked up Disruptor Tide, which I love the Tide. I wasn't really sure about the Disruptor in the first one, too.
It's okay, because I think Disruptor's quite good against Ember in some ways. Like if you drop the ult immediately, the only downside is LGD don't really have a disable to stack on top of it. So if Q's really fast, then he just walks out of it before he can get the ring off when he has early levels, and then you just zip out. You need something to lock him in, like simultaneously, because if he's even on the edge when you cast it, then he's almost always going to just teleport away, and the glimpse won't catch him.
But what do you think kind of the motivation was behind it, picking it up so early at the very least?
I think
Was
it's
it just all about just getting strong teamfight heroes?
Yeah, not committing too hard as
Yeah.
well. Like, you want to pick your cores later and later on, so they don't just get hard countered. Almost all the teams are always going to pick their cores like 4th, 5th, or when another team has already shown what they're going to do with the 2 supports.
Right.
You never want like a core hero to be countered by something below you, if you can at all help it.
And what did you think about the Lion last pick from MVP?
I think it's pretty good. They needed more control, and they want active fight as much as possible. Like, if you're MVP, you almost want to play around the cooldowns. Like, when you play against a Tidehunter, you have to be able to re-up really quickly. Like, you take the fight, let's say even if you lose the fight 3-0, you have to be able to just kind of reload, say, okay, we lost that fight, but now that Ravage is down, let's take a fight.
Yeah, try and force another fight or at least be able to take some objectives.
Exactly. If you just kind of wait, you lose the fight, and your mentality is, oh, well, we lost that fight, let's, relax a little bit or slow down, then you either have to go ultra late game, or you just have to concede that you're going to fight around the Tide cooldowns. You almost never want to do that. You want the Tide to use it for, like, solo Ravages or these inefficient, like, 2-man ganks or something like that.
What about the Ancient Apparition, though, that the panel was talking about? I was a big fan of that, but it seems like one of the few times that we would possibly see an Ancient Apparition is that hero's just currently not really in the meta at all. Do you think that's just not possible?
I think
It
A would
doesn't
have
really
been
fit?
A would have been really good.
Yeah.
I don't think it fits MVP's playstyle, but you have to learn how to make those adjustments. Just because AA, it's good against almost all of LGD's heroes if you look at it. Like,
Yeah.
you've got
Tide, Chen,
Tide,
Morph.
Chen, yeah, exactly. I think the problem is that Febby wants something a little bit more active, and Dubu's their Witch Doctor player, which sounds a little bit odd to say, but like, Febby is kind of what makes MVP Phoenix work in a lot of ways. I know a lot of people focus heavily on QO because of his individual talent, and for sure, like, without him, they might not be as good as he is, but Febby kind of makes it all work.
Love that MVP are keeping their spirits up right now by playing some tic-tac-toe.
Oh, is that what they're doing?
Yep. I know you can't see it, but I believe QO won.
Nice.
I'm not sure, though.
You gotta let your mid guy win.
Yeah, it's a
Yeah.
confidence booster.
Exactly.
I understand. Otherwise, they start tilting too early.
Yep.
Lose the tic-tac-toe, next thing you know, losing at DoTa.
Man, I miss playing against QO mid. It was so fun. We usually used to have these like side bets every time we'd play. Be like, all right, if you solo get first blooded, then you owe dinner.
And how many times did you owe him dinner, or vice
In the
versa?
beginning of Zephyr, that guy owed me a lot of dinners. Later on, things got a little bit shaky, but in the beginning, we were up in dinners.
Uh-huh.
I think I owed
At
him.
the time,
Yeah, at the
Blitz
time.
7K Storm Spirit was just beating on a
I was a
4K
7K
player.
I was like, back then, it was like 4.3K or something.
Yeah, but at heart you were.
Yeah.
At heart you were.
I was not an MMR grinder. I kind of regret that. I feel like back then, a lot of people just put too much into scrims and not into just upping your own individual play. And now, players like Sumail, Miracle, all those mid one, they're showing that MMR at least means that you're willing to grind and that you can make these incremental improvements.
We'll talk about mid one a little bit. The newer players to MVP.
What? To Fnatic.
Or, sorry, Fnatic.
I was like,
I'm losing my mind a little bit here.
wait, you wanted me to talk?
I don't know. Talk about something. You could talk about Dubu if you want.
Oh yeah, Dubu. So when he first got to Korea, Dubu was like, he was not the best player. He was part of like the MVP.
I've already heard your purge.
Yeah, he
plan.
was
Yeah.
the MVP Academy team member. So there wasn't a lot of expectations on him, and I think by the time we left, he was like 5K, and we didn't really put a lot of stock into him. He was this guy that just like showed up to MVP's matches, and he was always smiling. And his profile picture is really noticeable on the C servers because it's just him with like a fake mustache. And then all of a sudden he hits 7K, and he's the captain of this team of veterans in the Korean scene. Makes almost no sense. Like, the turnaround time was so fast. All of a sudden he just got good. And I mean, being a captain of this team especially is hard. I know all of these guys really well from a personal standpoint. Like, maybe not MP, but like QO, Febby, those guys are volatile. So is Frev. Like that's what almost anybody that plays with him says. They're a little bit volatile.
Maybe that's why it took such a happy guy to be able to pull it out.
He always smiles.
All right, we're finally back here in this game. Our matchups are pretty much all the same.
Yeah.
Looks like our Tidehunter has gone off jungle by now. He's just given up on the lane. Went Iron Town immediately. What is your opinion on offlaners getting Iron Town immediately and not showing in lane? Are you a fan of that, or do you think you really need to stay in lane to keep supports?
I don't really like it. I think a lot of people see Iron Talon as this, like, oh, well, now as an offlaner I can get some farm, but I think that's the wrong way to look at it. I know when we talk to a few offlaners around our area, we're just like, okay, what is the role of offlaner? And a lot of people think it's keep the supports there, give your mid a really favorable one-on-one matchup, because Razor is a really easy mid to gank, and make sure that you just kind of space create. You force a lot of the attention on yourself. Like, if you're ROTK, you can't really read the game because you don't know what the supports are doing. You don't know their timings. You don't know when they went to pull, when they're harassing you. So you can't really call so easily. And Lion is a hero that can rotate really easily mid and set up a kill for 2-0.
Maybe that's part of why they have that ward down at the Roshan area. It does see some of those support rotations into where he could be jungling, as well as potentially trying to wrap around behind that mid dire side tower.
Yeah. Oh, they already sentryed this one as well, so ROTK...
He's cutting down trees, trying to find the ward, but he will not find it.
Sad
not
life.
this kind of ward anyway.
Yeah. So...
I mean, he's already trying to go into a Chen jungle anyway.
I really would prefer if ROTK played at least around the lane. Just because I guess he can't really do anything against an OD lane. So one thing about playing against an OD
this lane is so terrifying. He's caught out by one disable, and next thing you know, he's imprisoned.
He's doing whatever he can.
Yeah.
I think at some point though, you actually have to show up to the lane, regardless of how awful it's going to be.
Now, what time does our Chen really become active? Is this going to be a full AFK farming Chen at this point? Because he doesn't really need to help out the mid. Obviously, he can't do anything about bottom, and top lane Furion's being Furion. It's a hard hero to gank.
I think when you have the catapult, DGC's timing is going to come up, because a lot of his camps have been kind of warded out, and you want to try to get aggressive. Nature's Prophet is a hero that you need more than just the Disruptor +1 to do something about.
Yeah. Frev already has his phase boost plus level 4. He's actually in pretty good position. I wonder if they're actually ever going to be able to
That's actually so much farm for an
rotate
offlaner.
on mid, yeah.
That's what I mean. It can't just be Morph plus Disruptor, because Frev gets level 2 Treants, and he just right-click trades. That's why MMY is left as well, because he's not really sure what he's supposed to do here.
Frev does find the haste rune. He's going to be running into maybe here. Febby does slow him down. They also get the Maledict on top of him. They're committing all 4 heroes to be able to pick up this kill. Maybe will end up going down for the first blood. Febby is actually not going to take out from that one. Thunderstrike not quite enough damage. DDC getting caught by the Sprout now. QO's not going to be able to catch up. Frev's just going to get some good right clicks in and call it a day.
Yeah. They killed all his creeps too, right? That's
they
pretty
killed
massive.
the
He's
wolf
going to
and the
kill him.
centaur. Oh, wow.
He's got this
really
one.
diving in deep. The phase boots will allow him to keep up with DDC and picks up the secondary kill.
Oh, if he got out too, that'd be so sick.
Yeah, nobody
MVP is
from
gonna be
LGD
so
is
happy
rotating.
about
They've
that.
got 2 in the bottom lane, and maybe just now TPing into the mid lane, and he may actually die again here. QO is a little bit out of mana. Febby almost dies there. Maledict, it's going to take on maybe again 2 more times. He's got a bottle charge, though. I believe that's just enough HP for him to be able to survive.
That's... As a mid player, I'll tell you, this is the most annoying thing in the world. How are they going to gank me again? They just did it.
Yeah.
Like the double back. And you know what the crazy thing is? MVP Phoenix, I bet they do it again. It's the 3rd time in a row. Like the 3rd time's a charm.
And they can afford to do that, right? Because ROTK was out of the lane for so long.
Exactly.
They didn't really need to worry about him. They blocked his camp once, body blocked it with Dubu, and then they could just full rotate to mid.
This is why the OD pick works so well for MVP as well. Just because now the Tide is in a one-on-one matchup. For example, if you left the Nature's Prophet one-on-one against a Morphling, Frev would be so happy. He could just right-click the Morph, farm out with pretty much ease. But what are you going to do as a Tidehunter now in this kind of position? Like you're level 3, level 4 now, but the OD's level 6 and he has treads already.
Yeah.
How are you going to survive that? You can't.
RTK does do something pretty smart here. He does manage to get the Radiant hard cam pull over. Will be able to pull the lane back to him, so he might be able to pick up a little bit easier CS instead of sitting so far forward in lane. Forev sitting on that top rune. Maybe he's going to make his rotation, but again, the supports are going to be there. Maybe he's going to be surrounded for the third time as the Ember Spirit is going to be able to sit on top of him with that Flame Guard. They should be an easy kill for one, but are they going to be able to get a turnaround kill? Dubu is going to be right-clicked down, but the Flame Guard is still up for QO. He's going to chase down MMY. Feby's going to help him out with a couple right-clicks, and they'll pick up that kill as well. Forev claims the double kill. 4-1 now to the favor of MVP.
Yeah, and the Razor's going to learn a really important lesson there. Don't go to runes alone. Make sure that your supports have secured it first.
Not against MVP, that's for sure. You may have thought that they were going to be slowing down the tempo of this game with the way they picked up later game heroes such as OD, Ember, and Furion, but these heroes all are able to come online by about 4 to 6 minutes.
Yeah.
And Feby's now running at ROTK. He's going to make sure that staircase is going to be completely blocked out. With Forev joining the crew, they're going to be able to find yet another easy kill. MVP Phoenix are just controlling this game so damn well in the first 10 minutes.
The laning phase has gone way too well for them, and now this Ember's in a position where he can actually actively lane against this Razor. And that's the whole point of picking Razor, is that you want a favorable laning situation. They haven't even been able to get it, as they're going to run at them again, but this is going to put MMY in such an awkward position, Cap, where he has to camp mid, he's not getting levels, and as a solo support disruptor, you don't really come online until you're 6, and you never want to be behind with this hero. You want to consistently play aggressively. And so he's going to be really unhappy about having to make this playstyle change. It's going to open up this top lane for Frev to do whatever he wants.
Especially since his controlling mechanisms aren't actually going to be all that good against an Ember Spirit. Once that Ember Spirit picks up level 6, if they somehow manage to run at the Razor and he tries to send the Ember back, he'll just throw a Spirit forward.
Yeah, they knew the two supports are here, so that's pretty good for ROTK. As I don't really think they can get a kill here. ROTK is playing this really smart, actually. He's just soaking up XP. He knows because of the catapult that they're most likely at bottom trying to do the wraparound. That's
tower is under attack.
Dual support 101, I think.
Yeah. That being said, MVP Phoenix don't necessarily have the greatest way to quickly take towers just because they have managed to get control of the early game despite something that I said earlier. There is going to be plenty of time for LGD to be able to make a comeback in the mid game where many of their heroes are going to be strongest, such as Razor and Tide.
You've got to get this Tide level 6, though. I think the first Ravage is going to mean a lot. Maybe he's going to get gone again, but Kyo just jumps out. He's just baiting it at this point. And ROTK, he's going to get his level 6 off of this, which is pretty big for him. He's almost got Arcane Boots, too. So he hasn't been as slowed down as we thought. Although that's pretty rough compared to the other offlaner. Like this, Nature's Prophet is going to help pick up a tower mid, and he's got 3,400 net worth.
They're going to rotate LGD supports around. They're not actually going straight for the tower here. They're going to rotate all the way around, perhaps to bottom lane. Maybe they think that mid lane fight is not one that they can actually take, and they want to try and pick off MP. They just lay down a counter wards. Pretty typical for supports on Radiant side to try and get that cliff ward up, but wasn't actually there this time around.
Yeah. The benefit of having a core like Morph is oftentimes what will happen, Cap, is when you rotate both your supports like that, your core has to run away. Like he just has to hide in the jungle or farm out. But the Morph can continue to show because there's not a whole lot I think MVP has that can kill him when he has Wand and Strike Treads.
So he can actually afford to try and push out that lane and maybe challenge the tower. If Furion's going to be so active in the mid lane.
He wants to try to get the MP up there because Forev is doing way too much on the map right now. Like, you want to bring this Nature's Prophet up, try to force him to get a little bit more farm out of that. Because right now, the Nature's Prophet has even more net worth than this Morphling. And yeah, it's tower gold, but still, it doesn't really matter that much.
Sylar runs into a bit of a stack, is going to go back to trying to push out that wave. Meanwhile, Chen, I think DDC is trying to get MMY to level 6 at this point. Jungling a little bit with him. He really needs this experience. He's moving too much around the map.
It's playing reactionary Dota, Cap.
Yeah.
Like you're rotating around because both the supports from MVP are getting so active, and LGD aren't really sure what they're supposed to be doing in this situation. So they rotate MMY there as a precautionary measure, But MVP then say, okay, we're going to stop doing that and go for the flat-out push. Take your tower instead and waste your time.
And then after they completed the push, they now sit a little bit farther back. Their supports are able to focus on gaining levels, which they might have been a little bit behind on if they'd roamed mid so much and hadn't gotten as many kills.
Look at this
You
right
can see
now.
our line is actually doing the hard camp pull.
4 heroes started going down, thinking their tide was going to get gone on. And they're trying to play around ROTK's Ravage right now. That's the one downside about the giant watermelon is he's super immobile. You want to play around his timings, but it's a little bit too obvious. And LGD are in a position now where they have to do something. I almost think they have to commit to this bottom tower, just because look at MMY just run around in a circle.
Tier 2 is going to feel a bit of pressure from the MVP as Sylar can't actually do much to pull the creep wave off the tower right now. QO playing really aggressively. Sylar's going to start morphing to strength. Obviously, there shouldn't be any issues with him here. But they might be able to catch Dubu. Dubu's going to be running into potentially 4 heroes of LGD. They are going to be able to glimpse him back, stopping that TP. And MVP Phoenix finally make their first kind of blunder of the game. Oh, Dubu's going to buy so much time now. He's
What
still
a space
dead,
creator.
but maybe has to actually chase down this kill, whereas earlier he just wanted to take it with the plasma field.
And that's such a kind of weak kill. It's the lowest net worth hero in the game. It doesn't offer a lot of experience. But Febby actually catches him with the stun.
They still managed to get the stun, though. Out from the troll, follow up with Centaur 1, Centaur 2, and Febby will be controlled long enough to be able to burst him down. MP has joined the battlefield, but they're not actually going to be able to fight it out. Still, though, that was another smoke used by LGD, and it wasn't really a high priority kill. Lion already got his level 6, and if they actually lose maybe here, this is going to be even worse. Maybe he's dropped incredibly low, and it looks like Varev's going to be able to pick up the kill. The bottle goes out, but it's still not enough. Dominating already for Varev, as he's just been all over the place, attributing to these kills.
Yeah, and that's the strength of the Nature's Prophet in general. This is why you start to see it as a first pick material in the games that we've seen today. You can get so active with it around the map. It's hard to kind of center around the fights just because you know you're almost always at a numerical disadvantage. And I almost feel like DDC isn't playing proactive enough. Everything he's doing is a little bit too reactionary. They haven't even been able to take any towers, and this
And then
disruptor,
why?
he needs the 6.
He really wanted that level 6, but he's not going to be able to get it. Febby blows him up with 1-2 punch. That'll actually help
Look at
our
this
Witch
split.
Doctor
This
get a
is
few
so
more
beautiful.
levels.
He was just going to jump away. Creates a lot of space for his team at bottom. And LGD are in a situation where they just have to choose right now. Like, you either allow this Ember to farm, but you're going to lose some creeps here for sure.
And that's actually so critical. They needed those creeps to be able to lead
Oh
this
my
kind of
God.
frontline
All
charge,
dead.
but they're going to lose all of them.
This Chen has not had the desired effect.
No, certainly not. He hasn't even picked up a fast mech. I mean, he was given a certain amount of space, but they tried to rotate so much, and he wasn't able to pick up any real kills, that it's resulted in him actually falling behind in farm.
Yeah. Right now, 2,800 net worth for a hero that should be well over that mark right now. Look at Varev's farm right now. He's almost got an Orchid already, complete with the drums too.
If he actually gets the Orchid before the Lincolns is up on the Morphling.
It's not even that. It's just he has solo pickoff potential on anybody on LGD right now. And that's such a scary thought, that one hero can split up your team so much. So now LGD have to play almost around each other. ROTK is going to go down. I think this is going to mean Roshan next for MVP, because you're not going to buy back this early into the game. Maybe you
certainly
have
not.
to, but
Taking away one of the biggest team fighters right next to the Roshan pit. It's very easy just to be able to slide on in with their heroes. The Furion
this
can
ward.
take up with the Treants. Nice aggressive ward from Dubu.
they want to spot in case they decide to smoke below the tower.
And this will help them later on when they go for the tier 2 mid push as well.
You've got to make a decision right now, and you've got to be decisive for LGD. You know they're rushing for sure, but I think they're going to be too late. Like, they're coming right now, but even now, this is going to be... They're even going to smoke for this under the ward. That's why it worked out so well, because LGD didn't have the luxury of doing it inside their base. So now MVP just backs up. They don't really care, and you have the Ravage available, but it doesn't really matter that much against the Aegis now and the item timings of MVP.
Certainly not. They've got both OD and Ember Spirit now hitting their level 11s.
You've almost got a BKB on your OD too. LGD have to do something. You can't play this passive with the type of heroes that you have. I don't even think they've blown a single Ravage yet. They're looking for some ideal fight at this point, but it's just not going to present itself. At some point, you just have to say, we'll take what we can get. Like 2-man engagements, that's almost exactly what I said that they should avoid, but you don't really have a lot of opportunities anymore.
Maybe if they can clear through this Ancient stack, ROTK, well, even then, he's actually not going to be close to that Blink Dagger at all.
Yeah. He, in fact, builds a Bracer first as...
16-minute Blink Dagger for Febby.
Yeah. Most of the time people go Aetherlands, but I think in this case it's fine. Because
Particularly against a Morphling feels...
Yeah. Map control too.
Yeah.
The ability for support to just instantly blow up another support is pretty huge.
Tidehunter replicate sitting in the mid lane. Maybe they're going to try and bait it out into a team fight or something. I'm not sure what their plan is, to be honest.
Yeah.
It seems like they're just a little lost in this game right now.
Looks like Tide is going for a mech, which I think is an okay idea, but...
Oh, Chen should have a mech.
Wait.
Shouldn't he?
Why does he have the Ring of...
I mean, I saw the Ring of Regen picked up, and I was going to mention it, but honestly, I'm not sure what ROTK was thinking.
Okay, they... I mean, LGD just seem out of it right now. Like, that's something that they should have communicated almost immediately. Like, that's the first thing you do when you pick double mech carriers. Like, for example, you have a Darkseer plus a Chen on your team. Somebody has to say, okay, I'm going to go this, you go this. That just kind of feels like kind of poor communication between team members right there. And now you've got almost a BKB completed on your OD, so now you don't even care about the Disruptor ult or the Tidehunter ultimate. And
Let's get Sylar here with the Orchid. Sylar has no hope of being able to escape from that one. The Orchid picked up well before the Lincolns, and QO is even going to try and chase down some of these Chen creeps, because why the hell not? Still managed to get the Centaur stunned, but LGD obviously have no control to be able to go on an Ember Spear.
Yeah, he fakes out the Ravage, but even QO knows there's no rush right now. They have the Aegis available, and LGD, I don't think they can fight into this lineup as long as MVP stays spread. If you catch a 5-man Ravage, yeah, but without the mobility of a Blink Dagger, I don't really know how they expect to take this fight. Kyo's just solo zoning them out right now. Just Ember Spear.
Oh, Febby! He saw the opportunity, jumps in, blows up the Chen real quick with a Finger of Death. They already guaranteed the tier 2 before, but they'll also be able to take that top tower as well with the Furion's Split Push. Gold is just rolling in for MVP now.
Yeah, they have complete map control. The Orchid timing is almost just... It's like comical at this point. MVP for Rev has 9,400 net worth at 18 minutes into the game. The GPM is spiraling out of control.
Now I know they just got a big team fight item in the BKB, but do you actually go high ground as MVP right here?
Yeah, Vegas. Look at QO play.
Jesus, maybe he's just going to be blown up right away as QO's leading him far in. MP finally drops the ultimate. The Ravage goes down. They actually get some control over the Ember Spear. It looks like they got the Static Storm over it, but Sylar's died at the same time on the left-hand side. A 1-for-2 exchange. They bring back MP, still has that Aegis though. LGD really can't commit too much going on that. In fact, with a Witch Doctor there, MP's willing to turn and fight ROTK as the backline is being controlled up by this cast time and time again. ROTK getting body blocked up by Febby beautifully, and they turn their attention back to the tier 3 tower and attempt to end this game nice and early.
Yeah, MVP showing that it's not even really like the typical 5-man push heroes that they show off. It's more they're just so good at controlling the map that they make it look easy. 19-minute racks, and arguably they have better late game. Actually, I don't even think it's arguable. You've got Nature's Prophet, Ember Spirit, and OD as cores. You've got the late game on lock. LGD, the one time they had that huge comeback against OG, I think they had the better late game cores, and that's why we never counted them out. But this game is rapidly kind of just gone out of control right now.
Yeah, LGD very much had this window of time that was supposed to start anywhere from like 15 to 20 minutes and go to like 35 minutes. If you win too late, you'd be entirely dependent on your Morphling at that point in time. But
yeah, I think we've seen one Ravage this game so far too, and it just
hit the Ember Spirit.
Yeah, and that's even less about ROTK and more just the fact that MVP are fighting around that fact. Like, they're splitting up the map constantly. They're making it difficult for ROTK to ever get aggressive, and they've completely phased this Chen out of this game so far.
Is MP, what's this early Hyperstone going for?
He's going
Is
for
it actually
Moonshards.
Moonshard?
Yeah.
Moonshard, essentially second item. If you we're gonna preclude the treads and drums.
Oh, okay. now
BKB
you're-
into Moonshine.
Your Nature's Prophet has Axe. I don't even think it's that great of an item in this position.
When you're so far ahead that you've already taken a top lane.
Yeah, you
there's-
might as well get like a Necro 3 or
Yeah,
something.
you have full control of the game. There's not much need for split pushing. at this
MP's
point.
just like, what do I buy, guys? I got 4.2k.
I've never been in this position before. RTK forced to TP back. QO already using those steering chains. There's the Ether Lens now for Lion, but we're pretty much waiting on LGD to go high ground once again. Or, excuse me, MVP.
Yeah, LGD are going to be hard pressed to stop this. Like QO dives in and somehow creates space for his team in that dive, and they don't even care that they're losing their pseudo 1 position as
Febby looking for the opportunity.
he wants to blow up ROTK if he can.
Oh, he just got him too, Febby. Jesus, I thought LGD was going to be ready for that one, and they scattered him out a little bit, but apparently not. RTK is down. He has buyback.
They knew it was coming, but what are you supposed to do, Cal? Commit the Ravage and the Disruptor ulti
Yeah.
to stop a line from going on your Tidehunter? Febby's thinking to himself, that's a win-win situation. Like, I go in, it does nothing, they'll drop ultis, and MVP starting the dual front assault. This is so clean by them.
RTK's still not buying back, but he almost needs to. 15 seconds left. Both tier 3 towers are going to be down.
I think he's at the realm where you don't. Once you're around like 15 seconds, unless you're at threat of losing racks right then, if it's not imminent, you have time.
Nature's Prophet actually gonna TP into the base. Go for maybe here with the Orchid. They have controlled up MP until the BKB comes into play. Blows up the Siler Morphling. They're gonna go on MMY next. It's just a slaughterhouse as MP is just stealing so much intelligence now. GG called by Siler. A very clean victory here for MVP in game number 1. We're talking about potential changes of style and the draft and everything else, but this is looking like the group stage all over again for MVP Phoenix.
Yeah. This time they did it with heroes that were slightly different. So I thought maybe, you get a slower tempo game, but it doesn't even feel like the heroes matter so much as their playstyle. They just played way too fast for LGD. That Chen pick just did not pay off.
Absolutely. As apparently our game's still going on. Got Megas. LGD is a little...
23-minute megas.
Maybe they want some extra time. Every little bit of time they can to talk about this game.
Yeah. So now the disconnects come out. LGD are just leaving en masse.
All right, maybe now confirms it with a full GG out. Is this though Blitz game 1? You think LGD are actually going to be able to come back from this kind of, for no other word, stomp?
I have no idea. It's the way that they got stomped. I feel like they're going to be shell-shocked. I was. I thought the Chen pick was going to do a lot more than this.
All right, well, that's just game number 1. We'll pass him now over to our lovely group panel.
Back at the panel now, couldn't be phrased maybe any other way, or casters say a bit of a stomp. Nonetheless, MVP still seemed to be just as hot as they were during the group stage. Either that or LGD looking a little bit lost, but nonetheless, we'll have to try to break this one down. It looked like it was a stomp nonetheless. Back at the panel with my same motley crew I got here, Winter, Merlini, Draskell, and Cinderin. Welcome back, everybody, as the teams do take a moment to step up and prepare. It's going to be a tough one for LGD to certainly shake off. Let's take it back to the beginning, though, gentlemen, starting with the draft. I know it's a kind of a common question to casually throw out there, but Winter, would you just put this on the draft for LGD where they kind of lost from the get-go?
Yeah, I think their draft didn't really blend well together. It was really weird that they finished up their draft with the Razor and the Morphling. We felt like they needed something to push as a core, otherwise their strategy wouldn't work. And I think the other fatal mistake they made was giving them the Furion. I think when they have Furion, their playstyle is just much faster, much better, because you always have an offlaner that can come active online so quickly that you can push tower, you can get kills, and it just fits their playstyle so much. And
The interesting thing about it is that they've gotten Fury in 4 out of their 5 games.
I feel like they just misunderstood what was important in their lineup. It wasn't so important that, it was kind of important they got Earth Spirit, and it did a lot of work for them in the group stages, but I think the other key hero is Furion. You cannot let them have Furion. It's either you just pick it or you ban it. Otherwise, they can just play this tempo that they are playing just because the offlaner is Furion.
Well, if they did It feels like, though, if they did any sort of basic research about MVP on their group stage run, that would have been a no-brainer. With the lineup they had, was there potential for them to be able to counter Nature's Prophet, or do you just feel like they completely neglected
They
on
did
that
not have
front?
the heroes.
They didn't even pick the support that can deal with the hero. Like Disruptor doesn't deal with Prophet. You see how Prophet like harass him and just crush the laning phase. It just didn't make sense. Like when I look at their opening, I was like, okay, maybe they have a plan, right? Maybe there's something coming. But after I look at the game, I don't think they truly understood how MVP plays.
And they said they played Chen before. I looked last 3 months. They banned Chen 27 times, played him 0. And it showed.
Yeah.
Like DDC was just not able to really do anything. And then I think it all fell apart in that one gank mid where Razor almost got the haste rune, and then there was just like chain feed everywhere. But overall, their strategy was just not sound. They wanted to probably pair the Razor versus the OD, but as you said, if they've done any basic research, they know that OD is in the safe lane sometimes. Like, and then it's not that great for Ember, but if Razor can't win his lane super badly and transition out of that, like they're just gonna lose.
I'm trying to think about what their lineup was actually good for. Like if there was any aspect of the game where you'd just be like, yeah, this is the condition
Team
where
fight
it's really
with Disruptor and Tidehunter?
Even then, their team fight wasn't very good. Like
I think
their
they-
cores are Razor and Morphling, who are super dependent on getting lane farm first. They can't they're not strong at fighting minute 10. Perhaps Razor's, if you itemize completely correctly, but Morphling can't join for that. He doesn't fit into that. And their team fight can't really transition into taking Roche either, because if they would have picked some cores that could force a Roche fight and do that really early, then maybe they can get to use their Ravage. Did they use Ravage all game?
One time.
One
Or
time.
one or twice.
No, they used it a couple times for base defense.
But there's like nothing,
Yeah.
right? Because the moment that they got to use the Ravage, it was already too late. So the win condition was already gone. So how do you force team fights? You force team fights either by going down a lane with 5 heroes and just going to a tower, or by going to Roshan. And in neither condition were they able to really force it, because their heroes were not good at any of them.
They just couldn't use their team fight very well, I think, because they couldn't clear creeps fast enough, and they just couldn't force an issue because they lost their lanes as well. When you pick Chen and you lose your lanes, that's super, super bad.
Yeah.
So we're talking about enough how everything went wrong for LGD, but let's say they still had the same draft, and let's say MVP played just as good. What would have been the best case scenario for LGD? Let's say that they played the best Dota they could with that lineup. How would things have gone? The Chen obviously would have gone very different. Let's say he was not so rusty with it, or they had played it a lot recently. How would have things broken down a bit? Would it led to the same outcome? Would it have lasted a bit longer? I know I feel like I'm reaching for hope here for LGD, but what could have been their best case scenario?
If they would have been able to gank mid once or twice with smokes, because the Chen didn't really accomplish anything. He didn't even get very good levels in farm, I feel. So maybe they could have tried to focus on another lane than top with the Disruptor. He felt like a non-factor up there. The Prophet got super good farm that game. So maybe you try for a full wraparound, going to bottom with 2 Chen creeps and the Disruptor, and you kill the OD in lane and then try to get the tower. You try to do the same in the mid lane. Maybe the map opens up and your Morphling gets to split push because you force Prophet away. They didn't take any initiative. This reminds me of the game where VP's first game of the tournament, where they played a Chen strat and they took no initiative. I think you watched that, Winter. Maybe.
It was the Bat Rider game, wasn't it, with Chen? It was the Bat Rider game.
They played a game with Chen. That was their absolutely first game of the tournament. What was VP's first opponent?
Oh, the first opponent was Liquid.
That was their very first. Yeah, their
In
very
the group
first game
stage,
against
yeah.
Liquid. Yeah, and they had Chen Death Prophet and something, and they never really tried to move and force the issue, and Liquid just took them by storm in the lanes. This seems very similar to me.
So let's say this time now, going into game number 2 for LGD, I suspect a Nature's Prophet ban would be in order. So if MVP have been playing Nature's Prophet 4 of their 5 games, what's their next best thing? What's their plan B, or what do they reach for next? And will it still be that high tempo action we've been seeing from MVP so far? They still have yet to take a game past what feels like even 30 minutes yet this tournament.
Probably aggro dual lane, I would say. Like they have 2 people up there because I don't know, they're always it seems like LGD is always scared of something bad happening, and by the same token, MVP always poses a threat everywhere. OD puts a lot of pressure on Tide. Ember +1 can always kill the Razor, and then top lane it's NP. He's already pressuring the support. The carry can't get free farm, so they're pressured everywhere, including the jungle, because Chen's I gotta save everywhere. So I think if you don't have NP, you want a strong lane in that off lane. That's really where all the issues stem from.
The 3 key picks for me in the first phase for them are Prophet, Earth Spirit, and Enchantress. And I feel like I'm saying that for a lot of teams, but in this game they banned Earth Spirit and Enchantress, LGD did, and then they first picked the Furion. I'm guessing next game the sides are swapped, so maybe LGD has the overall first pick. So they get to ban 2 and pick 1 themselves. I think that's got to be the way to go.
So what's their best grab then? We know MMY plays a great Earth Spirit. They played Enchantress before. ROTK does play Nature's Prophet, but does he play it on the level of an MVP does, or even like a Liquid that we saw earlier?
They utilize it in a different manner. They're not as aggressive with the NP, which I think is the strength of the hero right now.
I think his Ench has been his best hero this tournament, though. RTK's Enchantress in the offlane, he played it 2 or 3 times. I think that has been his best performance overall, so that's something to go for in my opinion.
Okay. Well, gentlemen, we're going to be playing this game again as players do begin to file into the lobby. I'm encouraging my coaching staff right here. You're on the side for LGD. We know their traditional style is to take things slow, methodical, play it to the late game, allow Sylar to really thrive in his position as a Morphling or a hardcore carry farmer. What do you do going back in the locker room now? You know you're going against this team. MVP now feeling like the real deal. How do you stop them? How do you stop them from going so fast into here? How do you prepare for them to slow down?
I think they have to pick better lanes, and they can't really just give up their lanes and just pick weak lanes. And again, like what they mentioned, ROTK has to be either they pick Prophet, even though they utilize the Prophet differently, or they pick him Enchantress, since they're most likely going to be first pick this time. I think in this particular matchup, I know that we've been mentioning how good it is to, if you get picked, you want to go for Dire instead of getting first pick. But maybe in this scenario, if you're LGD, I feel like it's much better for LGD to be first pick, because there's just way too many heroes that you want to ban, and being in first pick means you have one less hero that you need to worry about. So that would be my first priority for LGD. Get first pick, and then I will pick good lanes. RTK will be either on Prophet or Enchantress. These are my few concerns.
If you're co-coach, if you will.
I think we need 4 coaches for LGD at this point.
At that point, you need one more, and you can just replace the team. But
in addition to what Winter said, I think maybe he should be on a playmaker hero instead of a farmer, just because they tend, like Sylar farms a lot, and we have seen him play like NP in the safe lane in the past, but pretty much everything is just a hard carry as to what he plays. So give him the farm and let maybe move around on the map. And of course, the supports should go to ROTK's lane. They always leave him out to dry. There's always no pressure coming to the opponent's safe lane. I think if they give ROTK some backup, that can change.
Yeah, I mean, if we're going just full coach LGD here,
Yes.
right, we're just going all the way down.
I mean, I'll probably pose a question for MVP Phoenix, but that seems a little bit
All
easier
right.
to advise.
So-
So let's keep going with LGD.
I mean, even in the first game, it seemed like there were some cohesion issues with your heroes. Like, they kind of clash in terms of what they were supposed to do. Like, Chen's timing is totally counterintuitive to Morphling's timing, because the hero needs, like, 2 basic items, and that's, like, 25 to 30 minutes when Chen wants to be going high ground, pretty much. I just, like, totally agree with what Winter said earlier when he's like, okay, pick something that can either push or can fight early. And I feel like Morphling is pretty mediocre at both of those things. And I just feel like if you pick Razor and Morphling together, you have much more basic problems than, like, thinking about if we need, like, first pick because we got to banner pick this hero. It's like, pick a draft that has one common goal. I really felt like this draft to me was just split.
it's easy to just assume that it feels like this might not be LGD's kind of patch, or at least it's definitely not the tempo that they're used to working with. But they've been able to make it this far. So is it just that MVP are the answer for LGD? I know when we were hyping up this series, this is like possibly MVP's preferred matchup of everyone else.
I mean, look at LGD's group. They beat, what, Newbie and Archon?
Newbie matched the same, and then in that same group, no, it wasn't Archon.
Yes, it was.
Was it Archon?
Yeah, it was
Archon
Yeah,
played
so
OG.
it's like,
Fair enough. Yep, LGD, Newbie, OG, and
Yeah.
Archon.
Yes.
So pretty stacked group.
they put up a good fight though versus OG.
Yeah,
which
that
is
was
why I'm
the
like
highlight
surprised
series.
that they're not doing very well at all versus MVP. And I would tend to believe that they actually had they were less prepared for OG because of the matchups that they had versus Newbie earlier. They've had a full 2 days to prepare, tailor it all to deal with MVP, which is why I'm super surprised.
Remember one game in the group stage where we were watching LG? I can't remember against who. We were like, when we look at their draft, we're like, oh my god, they are so done for, and the game ended so quickly. This
It
game
felt
is
like that.
For an opponent that they known, and it just seemed like the draft.
game. Their draft had a lot of issues. They didn't really pick the draft that worked very well together, and they didn't understand what their opponents were good at.
Yeah.
All right, we're getting ready to load, fingers crossed, into the draft here. But before we hop in, since we gave so much love to LGD, let's look to the side of MVP. Now you're feeling really good. It's like, okay, we got, and I remember even from, I believe it was Febby, but MVP were feeling so confident at the group stage. They were almost surprised at how well things were going for them. They're still probably feeling that high right now. If you're coaching MVP, how are you feeling about approaching them, telling them, keep the good fight going, take it easy, don't get overconfident? How are you telling him to approach game 2? Obviously telling him, expect your Nature's Prophet to possibly not be there. What's your advice?
Just do it again.
Do it again.
I
Keep doing
think
what you do.
Seems
Do your
good.
thing.
One
Do it
thing,
again until you
One
lose.
thing I think would be cool for MVP is if they let the Darkseer through and had a solution for it, because I think that can make a big statement to other teams. Just like, oh, yeah, Oracle or whatever it may be, maybe Anti-Mage, I don't know. Just something that's different that's like makes a statement. Hey, every other team bans Darkseer versus you guys, but we're gonna take it and we're gonna crush you against it. So that's, yeah, they'll probably likely win, but you want to make a statement going to the next round. You want opponents to fear you, not like, oh, you just beat LGD and they didn't know what they were doing versus you. That's like not what you want going into day 2 or day 3.
Sounds good. It looks like we have a draft, and a statement might be made here. Let's hop into game number 2 of LGD versus MVP Phoenix.
Dun dun dun.
Earth Spirit.
Dun,
It
dun,
goes to
dun.
LGD.
I'm glad they banned Furion.
If they didn't ban the Furion, I'm like, okay.
So, MMYO, as we know, plays a phenomenal Earth Spirit. We've seen it plenty of times. It hasn't been so much in recent history here, but this is a great thing going for him.
70% win rate
70%
in the last 3 months.
And it's good at securing their lanes, so really good opening for them. And LGD goes for the Lone Druid, which is primarily played by either Maybe or Sylar, because ROTK doesn't play this hero.
Worries me a little bit because that probably means that they put maybe in the safe lane and then maybe they go for 2
but
carries
his-
again.
His Lone Druid carried the other day. You remember
the-
the roots, he keep getting roots in the lane and he keep getting kills.
In this tournament so far, only Sylar has played it for them, and he played it mid every
right?
time.
So it's
I
always
think.
Sylar.
Yeah, and that already game was that they were playing against a team that played into their hand, right? That weren't so hyper aggressive.
I'm really curious
though.
to see if LGD banned PL second phase, because MVP have been known to pick Jug, PL together, and they're both against Earth Spirit as cores.
The thing is, like, they usually only do that specifically if they get a really good mid matchup for the PL, like against I told you against Invoker.
Yeah,
and
they
for
haven't
Invoke-
seen the mid hero yet,
Yeah,
right?
they haven't really seen the mid hero, so they might not do it yet.
But PL does pretty well in most matchups, wouldn't you say? Because you just go like bottle, you spam.
How about against Lone Druid, Ben? Does he do well?
You can farm. He won't die to roots. This
I
is
think
pretty
it's
much all you
actually
need.
hard to pressure him too, right? Which is Earth Spirit, you need like another hero as well.
When Low Druid is level 6, you can't harass him at all with PL. You can just disjoint Lance every time, I think.
Yeah,
With
that's
Shapeshift,
that's
so
true.
you get.
But
don't
in
get
the early
harassed.
laning phase, like from level 1 to level 4, it should be fine for PR.
Yeah, for sure.
Looks like LGD are going to be removing that pesky support Phoenix, who we found to be very, very good against the Lone Druid here, so taking proper steps. I don't know if we've even, ironically, I don't even know if we've seen much Phoenix from MVP Phoenix, but nonetheless, the safe bet to remove from the game.
How about the Witch Doctor? I know we saw the counter, like it's like a sort of a soft counter against the Magnetize from
Yeah.
EG. We saw that from EG.
Should ban it out.
The heal,
Good for LD.
yeah, it's pretty good versus LD. The heal can be good versus Magnetize. So there's already 2 reasons to pick Witch Doctor here.
Or maybe they bait it out and then pick AA.
Oh, his debut. Wouldn't mind seeing that.
AA seems like a hero that's very well geared towards LGD style, though.
Okay.
LGD.
They actually ban out the Witch Doctor here. Interesting from MVP Phoenix. Something that obviously would have been pretty good for them.
I mean, it's still a really good support if LGD gets their hands on it. So maybe they want something else that can be
10
much more
seconds
aggressive, because
remaining.
Witch Doctor is a support that it's not so easy to be aggressive.
5
It's usually
seconds
played very
remaining.
defensive. You wait for the enemy to jump you drop a cast, you try to position yourself for a death ward. Maybe
Reserve
MVP
time.
wants something much more aggressive compared to that.
If you've done your homework here as LGD, I think you banned Bounty Hunter or PO.
I think Bounty Hunter is way more scary.
But they have-
Okay,
they have
Lash
Earth-
is actually a fair enough ban too.
They have
I
Earth
think.
Spirit though. Like,
That's
fair
yeah,
enough.
Lash is also really good ban, because Lash is something that they like to play a lot, and especially when they have a Venge or Bane as a support, they have a very high tendency of going for the Lash, because your off laner just can't do anything. They stun you and they split off and you're just basically dead, or you just can't lane.
Turn to pick.
But MVP is going to go back for the IO.
Yeah.
Is this March's legacy with a bristle now?
I was just
Yeah,
about to say
possible.
that.
Yeah, Bristol is actually like to
Here.
pick a lot, and with Wiz already picked in the second phase here, I wouldn't be surprised if Bristleback would be picked up after this. It's fairly good versus Lone Druid as well.
Does make sense on also why they probably considered banning the Witch Doctor and then even the Disruptor as a follow-up. LGD support
Phoenix
response,
turn
though,
to
is
pick.
going to be the Visage here. Common grab for them, usually paired up with something like Sylar's Lycan, but now the Lone Druid being already grabbed for them. And wouldn't you know it, the Bristleback does end up showing up. Nice call, gentlemen.
Obviously doesn't counter familiars as much now as it used to, but I don't like how fast they picked this. I think they didn't really care what LGD were going to pick third there. As long as it was like a really hard counter to Bristle, they were going to go for it. That looked very premeditated.
There's still Void, right? Void's pretty good.
Yep, our TK does pretty Void. It has pretty good synergy with Visage because you can just set up for the nukes of the Visage.
Good versus Wisp.
Would it be terrible to go back for like a Tidehunter again?
Tidehunter's still alright, but it's not so good versus the Juggernaut. Like FV does well against Juggernaut, does well against Relocate.
They could still put the Bear safe lane and go Invoker as well.
I think our TK has to play a more active hero. I'm worried that if they pick Tide, it's going to be the same story over again. I'm sure you've got an Earth Spirit that can rotate, but your lineup takes time. Once again, an MVP come online very early,
So you would rather him be on, say, a Beastmaster, less cooldown.
for example, or even a hero that can contribute to ganks before level 6, because if you look at MVP's lineup, they're going to hit a timing where they can probably Roche minute, I don't know, 10 to 12. They just go there with Venge,
maybe
Goo,
even
Juggernaut
earlier.
Ward.
Even earlier, possibly, if they get a really good like pick-off or something, they have like Venge and Jug.
Yeah.
Like, it's pretty easy for them to do it.
I think Shaker is okay, but they
Shaker's
really don't
just
have
gonna get
very much
dominated on lane, though.
damage.
Yeah, but he fits the criteria of being able to be
Yes.
active. You don't need to wait for ultimates. You can run around with Fissure. So, I mean, it's still
At the very
kinda
least,
fits
it's the
that.
right idea. I just don't know if it's the best pick for it. I'm already worried for LGD again. It looks like they're...
Aren't they kind of lacking damage right now?
Yes, that is the problem.
Yeah.
They don't have like very good bursts, and so it's gonna be a little difficult for the Visage to get the Soul Assumption charges.
They also don't have an easy way to like pick off the IO. Like no Lion, no Lina, no Bounty Hunter.
So they need a mid hero that deals damage, or they're gonna run Sylar or mid Lone Druid, and they need to pick a safe laner that has a lot of burst damage.
What about like a Alina, let's say, for the hefty
Yeah.
burst against the Wisp? Invoker is going to be the final grab for MVP here. Can't help but feel like this is MVP just, they had their draft set and they're playing their game and it's LGD's hand to
What do you
respond
guys
to it.
think of Zeus? Do you think Zeus might be too hard to lane against Whis and Bristleback?
I think he's going to get a run over.
I think it'll be fine.
Because they
Think
need
Zeus is
someone.
fine?
They need someone that can deal instant damage.
Their lanes aren't going to rotate that much, so you could just camp mid, I guess, with one of the supports. You might
Say
be able to save
Lina
it.
or Zeus, I like
But
the most.
LGD might just go for like because based on their past games, I know they like to run two cores. They like to always run two heroes that can farm. Zeus doesn't really fit that criteria.
Ooh, the Ursa.
What?
Coming out from
Interesting.
LGD.
It's pretty good versus Bristol, I say. And
Alright.
it fights early, has a lot of burst damage.
Scales? Contest Roche?
This draft doesn't pop out to me as a typical LGD kind of disciplined, methodical
That's good,
draft.
though.
But
That's
that's
good.
great. I know. Maybe it's time for a style change. It's unfortunate that it's potentially elimination to the lower bracket to pull it out now, but we'll see if they're going to be able to do it before we hand it over to our casters. We'll start with our Danish friend on the end. Synderen, how you feeling right here? MVP or LGD?
MVP all the way. LGD needs to play a really good early game, then they have a chance. But if the first 10 minutes are like last game, MVP are going to get it easily.
Draskell, you on board with that?
Yeah, agreed, 100%. They're in their comfort zone with these picks, I think.
Ben?
I'm going to go with LGD. Crowd's behind them. I'm behind them.
All
Let's do
right.
it.
That's fun. Okay, Winter, are we going to see a split, or are you looking
Yeah,
to...
I like the Ursa pick here, so I'm going with LGD.
All right, split down the middle. So it should be a barn burner at that. We'll go ahead and get ready to change things up right now. This is already move on to potentially face Team Liquid, and LGD will unfortunately go down and below into the best of ones. Let's go ahead and throw it over to our awesome casters right now. It's once again going to be Cap and Blitz. Gentlemen, game number 2 of our second series here at the Shanghai Major. LGD going against MVP right now, with MVP already up the first game right now. If MVP are able to clear
Dakota, we most definitely will. Glad to see that Ben has faith in the 20 or so people behind LGD, but gotta say that game 1 was looking pretty rough. This is a draft, though, that you're probably pretty familiar with, Blitz.
Yeah, they used to run this specific tri-combo, the Bristle Wisp Venge, at us quite often when we were in Korea. And part of
I
it is
remember casting those games.
those were
a lot of Whisperistle.
Yeah, Wisp Bristle Venge though. The Venge allows it so that they can continue to play aggressively, and you just simply don't stop. Like you want a hero like the Vengeful Spirit to keep up the aggression. Some teams, I think, in this position would erroneously think that you run some sort of safe support like a Lion to make up for it, but you just want something that can run at people. Like that's MVP's bread and butter. Like last game, for a second, I thought that they were more comfortable going late game. The weird part is they were. Like, they had the better late game too. They didn't have to go high ground at 15 minutes.
That's why we never really emphasized like all the various ways that LGD had to come back into the game, because they simply didn't. They actually did not have the better late game, and they lost the early game so badly that there was no mid game to be had.
Yeah. Quick trick for anybody that that's like kind of watching a game and wondering, okay, how does somebody have comeback potential? You look at the win condition. Okay, A, do they have really good high ground holding ability? And B, what are they holding high ground for? Like, do you have something that just goes better late game, something that will mess them up later on as the game goes? Because then even if you're 10k behind, but you've got a Spectre who's got a lot of your net worth, you've got options. But if you're some sort of hero like, if you look at LGD's lineup, this time around, I think it's a bit better, because you've got Ursa, who's quite strong. Earthshaker's really good at holding high ground. Lone Druid scales pretty well. I do like this Ursa pick, though, a lot.
Yeah. Why do you like the Ursa? Because we've seen a couple of Ursas. Liquid like to run it quite often. But this is something perhaps a bit different, the way this Ursa was picked up.
I just think it's kind of an underrated carry in general. I think it's one of those carries that does really well as an anti-carry. If you pick a hero like Gyrocopter or Juggernaut, and then all of a sudden you've got this Ursa who just runs at you with Fury Swipes, doesn't care about your magic immunity, and then he just hits you with the Enrage. So when you pop your Jug ulti at him, pops Enrage and just continues to run at you. And now things are even better because you've got a hero, the Invoker tries to Deafening Blast you, but you can now pop your Enrage and run at him.
Yeah, and you've got some nice control paired up with the Ursa as well, particularly coming from the Earthshaker, but you also have the Earth Spirit that's going to be quite helpful as well. Any sort of good AoE control pairs pretty well with the Ursa, and that's going to be important because the other hero, the Bristleback, that's going to be kind of something that LGD need to look out for. That's going to be something that Ursa needs to address, right?
Yeah.
Because he does a lot of good physical damage spread out over time, which is a bit of the antithesis of Ursa's ultimate.
It's it's weird casting in this position, because I remember when I came to Korea around the same time that MVP started, and I remember just how raw they looked. Like, nothing really seemed to work out for them, and all of a sudden now they're the heavy favorites against LGD. For me, when I first got into competitive Dota, like Sylarm, ROTK, MMY, these are legendary names. And now their backs are against the wall. They're about to get knocked down to the lower bracket where they're going to have to play a best of one against, who is it actually on their side? I'm not even sure. But in any case, playing a best of one.
No matter who it is in this tournament, you don't want to be in a best of one scenario, that's for sure.
Yeah, exactly.
Everyone has the opportunity for an upset at a major like this.
I do hope that LGD can make the comeback into this game number 2. LGD has just always been one of my favorite brands. Like, they've had such like a long history in Dota 2. You know, they even picked up a Western team for some time when they had that European
LGD International?
Yeah, exactly. It just seems like they're really committed to Dota in general. And this is the only Chinese team that made it to the upper bracket. So for all the Chinese teams to be in those best of ones, it's quite scary.
To some of our draft, how does MVP approach taking control over Roshan? Because that is a particular downside of LGD's. Looking a little bit farther in, but what does MVP do to make sure that they can continue to keep Roshan to their favor?
I think they just play like they have been so far. Get control of the mid lane, play aggressively on the off lane.
Themselves and Ursa, which is fine for taking Roshan, but they are Radiant side. How does Dire side really continue that narrative? There's already a
For me, it just feels that MVP, their two core players are amazingly stable. They're both 8K in MP and Q, and they did it in the Chinese servers. But it really comes down to these three players, Febby and Dubu. These are the guys that kind of set the tone early. So if they can accomplish a lot in the off lane, make successful rotations into the mid lane, then all of a sudden the map opens up and LGD have to kind of cross that line. Because they are Radiant side, so it's a lot harder for them to get to that point. I think part of the reason why they took this Ursa was because it's pretty good against the Bristle and it's really good against the Juggernaut. But they might not have seen the Invoker pick.
The Invoker is definitely going to be one of the more troublesome heroes for Ursa to deal with. What kind of Invoker are we seeing? Is this going to be a Quas-Wex Invoker? Because we don't have a whole lot to work with potential Exort early Sunstrikes. And I feel like Quas-Wex is perhaps just a little bit more reliable when it comes to controlling LGD? I mean, you've got plenty of damage coming out from the 2 other cores. I don't really see a reason you would need to focus on more damage out of your Invoker.
I guess, but in general, I'm kind of just a fan of Exort Invoker. Like Quaswex,
You just like being able to one-shot people?
yeah, the Forge Spears are so annoying to play against too. If you look at LGD's lineup, it would allow MVP to play their style too, of going to like the Roshan and then taking objectives. Like the Force Spheres are very good against LGD's lineup. Although Quaswex works really well against both Earthshaker, who's going to be underfarmed, Earthspirit, yeah. Kind of just depends.
Ursa has a really hard time against mana burn as well. He's so dependent on the little mana that he has.
Yeah. Oftentimes I'll see people just like bring out Clarities like repeatedly themselves.
That was one of the downsides of making that transfer from the Vlant's Ursa into the Masquemandus Ursa, where you no longer have your own innate mana regen.
I do like the Masquemandus a lot, though.
Yeah. The Masquemandus is definitely favorable, but that was one of the downsides, is just hurt your limited mana pool even further.
Yeah.
Scriff really likes that turtle. It's a good turtle.
Yeah.
How do you feel about Earth Spirit, by the way? Do you think it's one of those heroes that can be let out into the pool, or do you think you should always be 1-2 banning it?
I think a team like MVP at this point doesn't really care about it.
Sure.
But for example, if they, let's say hypothetically, not that it's happened yet, or that we're favoring one team over another, let's say MVP wins this matchup, and they have to play against a team like Team Liquid, who has Jerax. I think they'll be a little bit more reluctant to give it up. Whereas LGD, I mean, their play seems a little bit less inspired than a lot of the teams here, so they might just kind of say, okay, well, we got the better trade out of it anyways.
Yeah, you almost wonder if MVP were doing perhaps a little bit of test, see if the LGD would take the Earth Spirit for themselves.
Some teams just feel comfortable against what we consider really like near broken heroes. Like for example, EG and Wisp. EG will always feel comfortable playing against the Wisp.
Yeah.
I think Alliance and like Earth Spirit. Alliance is pretty okay with playing against Earth Spirits. But even then, today against Team Liquid, they banned it out, right? Yes, they did.
All right, we're finally back in game number 2 now between LGD and MVP Phoenix. We're going to start out with some early TPs as Dubu wants to be able to get those quick wards up. Visage, DDC, he's going to be doing something similar here. It looks like an early laning ward that he's going to try and sneak in and get some vision of the offlane tower and the offlane positioning. It's a good way for you to be able to see potential warding scenarios. He doesn't actually go for it, though. Kind of curious what... Oh, okay. He actually places a ward that's much farther down. Very unlikely to get counter-warded.
Yeah, usually you'll deward a little bit higher. Because most of the time, there's always going to be the lane ward. What this allows LGD to do is, because they have an Earth Spirit, you want to be able to have one support kind of zone out. And that you can actually do that if you have the ward down there. If you don't, it makes it so that the Visage has to hard commit a lot more. And it makes MMY's job a little bit harder.
Especially since it's the Wisp Bristleback lane, it's going to be naturally pushed in quite a lot of times. So you can also afford some vision that's a little bit more shallower than normal.
Yeah, for sure.
How do the supports play it on the side of LGD against this kind of dual lane? Do you, because MMY as the Earth Spirit, his role is much stronger in scenarios where you have a numbers advantage, particularly 1v2s in the mid lane. It's only until you have that kick where it actually becomes a stronger hero against aggro lanes, such as the aggro dual lane that MVP Phoenix are running. Is there a way that they can get that fast level 2? Do you think you should be trying to pressure mid more in the beginning, or are you down just for them to run the full defensive tri-lane?
I think they just rotate him mid. Just because Invoker's kind of an easier kill, depending on who plays what. Like, maybe he's their mid player, but Sylar's their lone druid player, right?
It should be lone druid mid though, right?
You would think so. I think for this particular adjustment. But it is kind of weird. I think going from mid to playing safe lane is a lot easier than going from safe lane to playing mid. because there are more nuances involved. Like you have to actively think about denying a little bit more, and the creep equilibrium is a little bit different.
If you just look at hero matchups, though, Lone Druid would fare better against the Invoker, correct?
Yeah, I think so. Maybe there's almost no chance that I think that he has against an Invoker. He just wouldn't be able to get reliable
The battle
farm.
begins.
I think the hero itself is okay against Invoker, but later on it becomes a little bit weirder.
And we've seen a plethora of mid Lone Druids before. It's a very tough hero to actually gank or control as an enemy mid or enemy supports. It's just rough to go into. That shouldn't be a problem here. MVP Phoenix are going to be perfectly content, I think, with just running their normal dual lanes.
Did you see what happened, by the way? Kyo picked up the bounty rune, and because he's a Quaswex Invoker, he initially bought the salve, because I think he just has a quick cast, and then he immediately sold it. He's like, I'm against a Lone Druid and I'm an Invoker.
Yeah, really no need for something like that. You've got that natural regen against a hero that really shouldn't be threatening to you whatsoever. At least not until at least level 5.
Once you've got root gaming going on, though,
Yeah.
things become weird and annoying. If you get like a double root early,
Bottom lane, it looks like they're going to be jumping in on our Bristleback. Forev has been left alone. The Wisp is only just now going to come in, but it's too late. MMY is able to secure the first blood. Apparently, Febby felt like he was going to be okay to leave that lane alone, but
hey, Febby went to go stack.
Yeah, if I'm honest, I'm not really sure why he thought that Earth Spirit was going to be running mid. I know we talked about it, but at the end of the day, while Invoker may be an easy hero to gank, Lone Druid is certainly not a mid hero that takes advantage of the Earth Spirit's aggression in mid lane.
Yeah, I think it's different too. If this was an Exort Invoker, I would say gank away like, as soon as your Lone Druid has roots. But because it's Quaswex, it's a lot less reliable, and I think Forev just isn't used to being contested. Like for the most part, in all the matchups that we've seen so far, he's had a somewhat easier lane.
Febby.
Oh, this
the
is
perfect camp, too.
That's cute.
Yep, he was able to do a quick little tether pull with the
Oh, he's going to stack
trolls
at the same time,
attacking.
too. Okay, this is like max efficiency.
It really is. That's going to be a 3-stack already for the Bristleback to take advantage later on. So even if his lane doesn't go all that well, we know he should have a nice recovery. Now, right now, the Earth Spirit is going to be checking out that Ancient Camp. I'm not sure if... did he counter-ward it? He did. So he blocked out the Ancient stack.
This time, though, he doesn't manage to get the pull. A little bit late to that, but I think Febby does know the existence of the Sentry. But maybe doesn't have a creep wave. Push into the jungle briefly, but DDC looks like he's going to connect this pull no problem.
QO having some issues. MMY and Siler, they're going to be able to get a block off here with the Fissure as well. QO is most guaranteed dead, as he has no way to be able to get out of that one. Some nice early aggression here from this Earth Spirit is proven to work out quite well for LGD.
Yeah, this is what they wanted out of their Chen in that last game. It's just a hero that could actively roam and shut down MVP's momentum. And this is such a good start for LGD, just because this is the first time I feel MVP's kind of been challenged in the laning phase. Like, oftentimes, it feels like there's more of a slow progression with their opponents, but this time around, it feels like LGD are saying, okay, we're going to bring it to you. We're going to get active in the lanes. We're going to make sure that Forev doesn't just get the usual start, that QO can't just take over a game.
MMY, his rotation is being spotted out. Once again, MVP seem to really favor that River Ward that sees potential support rotations behind the offlaner or potentially behind the mid-tier 1. Tornado EMP. Siler is actually going to be hit by that EMP. Takes a little bit of extra damage. Febby just comes in for a quick heal. And probably should be looking for that 4-minute rune. But he could very easily be zoned out if both supports of LGD head out for the bottom lane. We'll see.
Yeah, Febby going to bring the Sentry along. Spots it. Can you even click on that? Oh, that is... Okay, so he's going to eat it. Very good.
Takes a lot of damage for that one. Arcane picked up by our Earth Spirit. And he's actually holding on to a level, seeing whether or not he wants to get the extra bit of damage into the stun or if he needs the silence.
This QO Invoker still doing kind of okay. He's got phase boots, but Siler is getting a lot out of this lane right now. He's already got the Gloves of Haste on the bear.
Leading
time.
in, MMY is going to be able to get the
got the
silence, the
silence.
follow-up stun. Very nice control there. Unfortunately, they aren't getting any roots out, and he will be able to go invis. MMY not being able to bring any detection into lane just yet.
That was really close. If they could have just gone one route, that might have been enough to bring down that Invoker, but unfortunately, unable to. It's QO.
You still have a free farming Juggernaut, though. MVP Phoenix. Oh, the jump in once again. QO is going to be caught out. The tornado gives them a bit of space here. They are going to try and chase this down if they get the root at the last second. That is perfect. Exactly what they needed. Juggernaut's going to TP in, and I believe he does have his level 6. The scare back there from Siler. Dubu is still going to be able to keep up, though. The Fairy Fire keeps him alive, and an uphill miss as well. Really unfortunate as they do manage to get the full healing salve out. And Siler will actually be able to stay in lane. In fact, he'll get some free damage onto MP as well. Takes out the healing ward. MP already down to half health.
Yeah, and this is reminiscent of when Sylar, he did this against Liquid. Remember the old Fluff and Stuff plus IX Mike rosters when he outplayed them at that bottom lane? And the Sylar lone druid, he knows the control, he knows how to bait. And he's almost got the Midas completed at just 6 minutes now, Cap. And this is not what MVP expected. I don't think they expected a fight like this.
Oh, Siler.
He doesn't have the mana for the ulti, but
Cold Snap's keeping on him, but we do have the roll in once again from MMY. Now they're turning around with silence and a kick. They have another turnaround, though. Febi's going to be able to come in with the wisp, healing him up, and he'll be okay.
yeah. And unfortunately for them, not able to get the kill, but still the Earth Spirit doing quite a bit in this regard and forcing a lot of rotations from MVP. So they have to devote 3 heroes to being around this lane. And this is what we kind of expect out of the Earth Spirit in general. Like, this is what makes the hero so good.
Two-man rotation looks like coming out from MVP through the river. It looks like a smoke up from QL and Dubu. We run into DDC. They will be able to scout him out. Looks like they got a little nasal goon. The tornado does hit. DDC should be falling here, as I don't think LGD really have any appropriate response. Just run down by the 3 members of MVP, and that'll be it.
Yeah. Still really good for LGD overall, as maybe continues to get some farm. There's not a whole lot of pressure anywhere else. And they're doing a really good job of things overall, as not a whole lot so far that MVP can do to either of the cores.
What's our Juggernaut up to? What level is he? He's got level 6 phase boots. Looking pretty good right now. But then again, RTK looks like he was level 5. He actually went for... Do you prefer this build? We were talking about the problem that Ursa's going to have against Quaswex. I feel like Arcane Boots is a necessity for an Earthshaker, just because, not just for him, but also for the Ursa.
Yeah, I think it would have been overall a little bit more stable, especially since ROTK is having a much better time in the off lane in general this time around. I think at least like 1 or 2 minimum.
Oh, roll in. They're going to try and go for MP, but he misses out. He actually kicks MP. Oh, MMY. That was rather unfortunate. He tried to get the quick silence off as he rolled in order to prevent the spin, follow up with the stun. They could have actually killed him, but that was one of those scenarios where you had a very likelihood that MVP was going to be able to get away scot-free.
Yeah, MP's like, go away. But he's going to pull the lane back. Smart decision, because everybody from LGD is up here. They've rotated maybe. There's a really good rotation by them, just because there's not a whole lot that MP can do against maybe. He can always just pop the Enrage anytime the Jug decides to ultimate, and you can't just go for the TP spin like you normally would. So MP is just going to get out of there, rotate down to the safe lane because he knows that something is afoot. At some point, your safe lane is no longer your safe lane, and maybe he's even going to show in the lane now. He doesn't want to waste any time.
One of the big strengths of Quaswex Invoker, right, is that you are able to easily solo defend towers, so he can actually go up to the top lane while the rest of MVP go and take the early Roshan. If need be, they can actually go and TP up to the top lane. Tornado EMP goes out. Doesn't hit on much.
There's like no way that... I don't think LGD can rotate fast enough for this. Like, they're going to start running down right now. The Ursa does have the TP available. There's no way that they expected this to happen anyways. You've got the Savage Roar on the Bear, though. Can he just
Yeah,
walk
the
in?
roar in position. He's going to be able to roar and stop a little bit, but somebody
click
still,
the Aegis.
Aegis! He's right on top of it. He can't pick it up. Oh, then he's forced to grab it out of everybody. Oh, my God. RTK, he's actually going to be slowed down by a little bit of goo. Turns around, faking out the Fissure, not quite hitting it. Nice Tornado EMP, though, landed by Kiwo. That all but assures there's no opportunity for LGD to do anything here.
Yeah, this is so awkward. This is like the hero that you least wanted the Aegis on. I think even like, I guess he's okay, but once he's out of bottle charges, you're just kind of a ball of light. You would have really liked to see it on one of your cores that could play aggressively. It's a really good maneuver.
Kicked up. Are they actually going to be able to commit to this when they jump in with MMY? The damage from the Visage isn't nearly enough, and now MMY is too far forward. Blocked out by the Fissure, laid down by his teammate ROTK. And that's a free kill for MVP. This is a Quaswex Invoker. Got to keep in mind that it's rather tanky. The Tornado EMP coming out once again. LGD just can't seem to get a hold on this Invoker, as once again he's going to be able to turn it around. Maybe he's forced to pop that Enrage and run himself away.
Yeah, but MVP starting to regain some footing. Really good Roche attempt as well. Like being able to force LGD up to that safe lane, and then everybody from MVP makes the instant decision to go for the Roshan, especially when you're against an Ursa. Like you never want the opportunity for him to just grab a free Aegis. But MVP on the offensive, they're going to grab this tier 1 tower up on him for sure. This is one of the least desirable towers to try to defend for if you're LGD. The mid tier 1 is a lot more stable to go for.
I don't like this as well, just because MVP Phoenix can potentially gain control of the jungle, but this also really like lessens the hold of LGD have over Roshan, right? It's already bad enough being Radiant side. Once you lose your tier 1 at bottom and mid, seems all but impossible to be able to actually contest Roshan.
You're kind of just forced into this position though. At some point you know you have to give up that tier 1 tower at bottom. What matters more is giving up the tower mid tier.
Rapid rotation around there, going to be able to catch ROTK out of bounds, completely out of mana. 3-3 now. The score may be even, but MVP is certainly far ahead in this match.
I don't think it's that bad. Like the Ursa still has, I think, like an okay amount of farm. Like most of the difference in net worth, I think, just comes from like the objectives. But LGD overall have had a pretty decent time of things. Like last game was, if you told me 15 minutes of the game.
Oh, but they're about to lose their top net worth hero. They do have the relocate in as well, so there's no way that Tyler can get out of this one.
Oh, they do manage to kill the Jug though. That's a really big pickup.
Yeah,
I'm not sure how he died. I think he just got stunned by MMY. He just did Earth Spirit things. Then maybe hit him a bunch.
Tower is under attack.
What's your opinion on the Bristleback mech? Because obviously you've experienced it a lot more than others.
It's so awful to play against. You think you finally killed a Bristleback of all heroes, and then he mechs up with his Wisp. Everybody from MVP's full again. ROTK.
Looks like Dubu was trying to go for the swap, but just a bit out of range.
Yeah.
MVP are doing what they were doing last time, though. They're kind of grouped up in 2 or 3 man squads and keeping this this really neat split push that is not allowing LGD to actually gain any ground. Maybe MMY, it's all on him. He's got to find the right kind of initiation. Until RTK is able to pick up a Blink Dagger, the split push can only really be defended by MMY leading the charge.
Almost feel like LGD can still fight. It's not like the Aegis is on some crazy hero like the Invoker or anything like that, or even Fred. It's on the Wisp. But LGD are going to concede this top tower too, and they're content to continue to farm because they know that Sylar, once he gets the Radiance, complicates things for MVP.
Once he gets the Radiance, but he's still another 2k away from that Relic. Meanwhile, Bristleback has a Vanguard as well as that mech by 13.5 minutes.
Yeah, the timing on this Bristleback is so sick. They should just be able to frontline with this hero and take down towers. And that's exactly what they're going to do is MVP. They're going to snake behind this one and see if they can find a kill on Sylar and set things up with the Wisp relocate. Should be able to get this once they relocate in. Oh, they went the...
Oh, Sylar! Oh, no way!
Wait, what just happened?
They just passed each other by. MVP Phoenix miss out on what could have been a free kill.
The timing on that was pretty absurd. Like, as soon as they hit the high ground, he gets the... That is... Sylar's got to be so weirded out, because then he sees them in his jungle and he's like, they smoked.
2,400 golds. runs to that middle lane. But he's really the only one successfully farming on LGD. It seems like everyone else is just trying to take perhaps some of these smaller jungle camps, but like no one even feels comfortable showing themselves in bottom lane. Right now, the Ursa is just kind of wandering around.
I'd really like them to not give up this tier 1 mid. I don't think, even with the Radiance coming up, I think you have to at least make some effort at contesting it.
MMY, balls on in, is a little bit short. They don't have their Ursa here just yet. He's making his way across from the jungle anyway, so they can make a commitment soon.
Yeah, they're even going to pop the glyph.
They should just go while Forev is up at that top lane. Actually going to be able to catch QO, leading with a Fisher stun. Nice swap back out, though. Dubu may be blown up, but he managed to protect QO, and that's hugely important. Now the relocate in from behind is going to be able to catch multiple heroes. RTK is going to be the first one down. DDC actually summoned some new familiars, so he should be okay. Able to cover his retreat with a potential stun, but this just means MVP Phoenix, they win the fight, and they'll go right back to taking that tier 1 at the mid lane. I like this rotation from LGD, though. They know how desperately they need to be able to track down MVP. They get Fevy, and they're going to turn towards Forev. Unfortunately, they're missing out on disables here as they can't quite keep up with Bear. The tornado comes in. It's on 2. EMP will go off, but I think they're just going to try and go for the Spirit Bear and call it a day. Forev.
Oh, here comes Maybe, though.
He's apparently okay with this. MMY is going to be able to address QO, and Forev, he's actually battling it out with Ursa right now, but this is not a battle he can actually win. Forev will eventually go down. The Mechs keep it alive. Maybe. Oh, he actually does die. The kick on through. Vischer onto QO. They're controlling up the Invoker, but Sylar's almost dead. MMY is trapped up against MP. There's just no way out here for LGD as they run down hero after hero. 3 down. DDC hit by the tornado as well. That's going to be a 4th down double kill for QO. And it looks like Dubu, he might even find ROTK. No, he doesn't get the swap off.
ROTK has to be so frustrated at himself. He blocks himself from being able to help the rest of his team. He was like just over that ledge. I need to Echo Slam this. I could end this fight for my team. Unable to do so. So many heroes hit the deck for LGD as they lose 4. And this Earthshaker used to have a decent Blink Dagger timing, but that is now fallen off. Although they still have the Radiance coming up somewhat soon.
Somewhat soon.
I'm optimistic.
Seems like MVP Phoenix will be able to take the last of these tier 2s before that Radiance is up. And then next they turn towards Roshan, take that Aegis, and then probably go high ground from there, right?
Yeah. I do like that they're going to go for the Midas on Kyo, by the way. I think he just kind of understands the read of the game. Just in case the Lone Druid had a really good start, you want to be able to catch up in levels and farm.
And it's one of the heroes that gets the most benefit out of levels anyway. Show themselves at bottom lane. The relocate comes out. Sylar doesn't have any way out of this one. He does have the roar still up, but he's just trying to run it. Does manage to scare back QO, but the rest of MVP will still be able to run him down.
Yeah, exactly.
You can speed that along. It's all good. Out there from Forev actually absorbs that rolling boulder and will be able to fight the rest of the team. RTK throws down the epicenter, but is only just before he dies. MP is chased back with a spin, but Forev is going to be able to continue on the front line, slowly but surely tickling these heroes down with the quills. That'll be another 4 down from LGD as MVP are just stomping through this game too.
Yeah, now we can say they're crushing. And I don't...
he just picked up a Hand of Midas on Invoker. He almost has enough for the Axe.
I don't even know
choose to go that route.
What happened this time around, Cap. LGD did such a better job of contesting lanes. They did a lot better in their safe lane. They killed Forev. MMY was a beast. He continuously rolled at mid. Slowed down Q more than I've seen him slow down at any point during this tournament. And they really took it to them. But when it came to team fights, they're just getting flat out demolished.
Kick comes in, Forev. Not quite blocked out. Maybe is going to have to enrage, but they may not even be able to save him. MP does get rooted up, but Forev's going to be able to keep on going. A scare back there. Maybe he's going to be taken lower and lower from the urn, and they do end up taking him out with Bevy. Spirits, 3-man Fisher. RTK still does not have that Echo Slam, though, so not much he can really do, though. QO locked in by the roots, but he's willing to turn and fight. He's okay with this one.
That's a maybe buyback, but Sylar doesn't have Bear for the next 82 seconds. It's going to be a guaranteed Rax.
Invoker Dagon, okay.
All right, that's the get out of my game item.
He's ready to just zap down some heroes.
Yeah. QO he's feeling himself right now. He's like so happy. I'm doing QO things, can't stop me. Gonna build a Dagon with my 3,200 gold.
That's the top 6 Dagon right there.
Yeah. I like that. Those moves. You know, the subtle, this is how far behind you are.
Demoralize the enemy as fast as possible. Sylar not expecting
Sylar's about
QO
to
to
get
still be
Dagon right
inside
now.
the base, but he's definitely here, and he's got the Dagon too. MP will finally catch up. The spin to win will take out Sylar. Dubu takes a large amount of damage, and that heals him right back up, so they throw down the swap, catching up to DDC, take him out. Dubu still completely fine. Sitting right next to the fountain, he's okay. LGD just have no reprisal whatsoever.
Yeah. That. Like, what does Sylar even tell his team? He's like, guys, that Invoker has a Dagon. 'Cause I would tell my team. Like, who pings that out for the rest of them?
Invoker has Dagon 1.
Yeah, you just ping that out, like, what?
It's a late Roshan, but it'll come up eventually, and MVP Phoenix are going to lay claim to it, unless LGD can make some sort of crazy smoke maneuver in the next 5 seconds and head over there.
They have their Lone Druid Bear up.
They're
but
so close to the Blink Dagger, too. They're going to be like, oh, guys, let's just get the Blink Dagger, and then we can go smoke into the Roshan pit, but it'll be too late.
And the more frustrating thing is how tantalizingly close Sylar's been to that Relic. I remember 5 minutes ago, he had a 5-minute Midas. Where did it all go wrong? All of a sudden, MVP, they do Roshan, somehow Febby gets it. LGD start the game off really well. All of a sudden, things are just catastrophic. That's a good... At that point, you can use that term.
Better movement, better control, better kind of everything from MVP once we got past that laning phase.
Yeah.
The Earth Spirit did prove to be a bit of a sticking point. LGD definitely had some
that
good
hero-
opportunities with that.
The hero did everything they wanted it to.
Yeah.
It completely dominated the lanes. The team fight for it has been relatively successful. They're just getting out team fought right now. Like, even that fight near their
It
entrance.
seems like the only successful hero for LGD was that Earth Spirit.
Yeah. The Lone Druid was going really well too, though.
Yeah.
I just took too many fights with the rest of his team. At some point, I think Sylar should have told his team, guys, like, 300 gold. Just relax a little bit. He's doing everything he can to get that item because he knows. I think he knows there's like no fighting without it. He has to tell his team, we might just have to concede this Rax. They can't take more than that. And I think that's exactly what they're going to do.
Attempt at a zoning kick. Those familiars aren't really going to be doing much to our Bristleback when he's got Crimson Guard and his back turned.
Yeah. You give up this Rax, but you get a lot of farm on Sylar. You're not going to fight before his Radiance anymore. Imagine if they did this, if they had done this 4 or 5 minutes ago. Just said, let's wait for Sylar's Radiance no matter what, and then we'll see what we can do. But I think at this point,
MMY is going to jump in. They're going to try and pop Febby, but he's already got a Ghost Scepter of all the items. MMY is going to lose all his mana and his life as the Dagon comes out. RTK turns around for the Fisher and does manage to get away. At least for the time being. Forev's going to be able to chase him down eventually. Febby comes in with the extra bit of health. Omni Slash bouncing around. Two very tanky heroes that are going to be able to absorb the Omni Slash. That's why we were talking about how they could just tank Juggernaut, but they never really got the opportunity to until now. Spirit Bear's going to die a secondary time. Maybe tries to jump onto QO, but there's just too many counterplay mechanisms here for MVP. 4 staffs and Ghost Scepters all around. DDC is actually going to be almost dying to Febby straight up.
MVP is just enjoying themselves right now. They're just diving non-stop. They've got a full AC completed on Forev too. They've secured themselves.
MMY kick in, but he doesn't actually dress Forev. Immediately goes down. Spirit Bear also going to die for his secondary time here. 8 to 21, make it 22. Sylar goes down yet again. Maybe finally picks up a kill. And there we go. An Echo out from ROTK. Maybe, just maybe, LGD can push MVP out of the base, but there's still the 2 cores. We've got both the Juggernaut and that Bristleback who's looking quite healthy. Maybe he's going to try and go for the Juggernaut. Oh, he's going to be able to burst it before the TP out as well. Can they control Forev? No, there's just no way. There's too many quills. Maybe he's going to actually try for it here. He still has the Aegis, though. I don't think they should try and fight this one at all. This is just a Bristleback who is too much to handle at this point in time. MMY tries to slow him down. Forev managed to dodge it. Won't be able to dodge the Fisher, though. A little bit more control. And it looks like he will finally be losing that Aegis. The one keeps him alive a little bit longer. Max efficiency with the tread switching as well. LGD are committing so much time to try and stop just the second life of the Bristleback, and they can't even do that much.
You said, Cap?
Nope, can't even do it. Febby's finally here with a relocate save. 12 to 22.
Something about that Aegis?
Say you want about LGD, but they are fighting out to the bare end.
You don't want to go out like this.
No.
you want to at least see if there's any glimmer of hope.
I mean, with that Echo Slam, there is a glimmer of hope. They got themselves a decent fight, good recovery in gold.
Yeah. Still, they have to contend with, despite that near full-on wipe, it's still almost like 6,000 XP, 20k in net worth, and MVP.
The metrics don't look great for LGD.
They just continue to pick up items. That's the scary part. Kyo's got a dig on 3. At this point, he's fully committed. Like, I'm okay with this.
You know, I've seen plenty of the Quatswex Invokers that hunt people down with the Orchid, but this is just something else.
Yeah, this is taking it to the next level. I know a lot of people are gonna call this like PM or whatever, but why? He's winning the game. He feels that he can get away with it. You do whatever you want.
Potential to be able to delete certain key heroes like the
Radiant's
Earthshaker.
top tower is under attack.
Who after
tower.
that fight now has himself a 4-staff. The Ursa managed to complete a Diffusal Blade, so they can actually real quickly blow up the
Radiant's
Wisp now.
top tower has
They need
fallen.
the. They need a
Okay.
big echo.
Maybe not that quickly. 3 bit boosters.
What's going
But
on?
they can address the Ghost Scepter. They can't address that one item. I'm not sure about the
Imagine if
3
Febby,
orbs.
Imagine if Febby just built.
They're
like
gonna
something
jump
else.
on Dubu kick. That's a good kick actually onto 2, but unfortunately the Tornado's gonna be pretty disrupted. They do manage to get a 3-man Fisher swap back out, but Dubu still dies as the kick comes in. MMY still gonna be able to control these heroes with Echo Slam over the top onto 2. They're
Febby's
definitely
not your
trying to go
target.
Febby, but my God, he's gonna be able to complete the relocate out, leaving for Ev here because we know the Bristlebacks are always gonna keep on living.
Nobody
What
checked
the
his
hell?
items.
Yeah,
Nobody checked his
just like
items.
it's a Ghost Scepter, guys. I can defusal it off. It's all good.
Radiant structures
Not
are
the case here at all. Febby comes right back to the fight. And the last lane of Rax is going to be going down here unless LGD can pull out a miracle.
MVP.
Radiant's top tower has
RTK tries to jump for Febby here. Febby's fine though. 4-staff back inside the base, trying to juke his way around, but maybe still dealing with Q well. Oh, the enrage goes off just before the Dagon hits. And RTK is going to be run down by MP.
Radiant's
Melee
top
Rax,
tower
range
is
Rax
under
is all that's left, and LGD, they probably knew it was over for a while now, but they just wanted to fight it out to the bitter end.
has fallen.
I think
The
this loss
dark
is gonna
tower
hurt
has fallen.
almost more than the first game, just because they had certain advantages going into this. They just got outmaneuvered around the map. That first Roshan was so well done by MVP, and it took away a lot of LGD's lineup momentum.
Yeah, it wasn't just about the aggression, but the way they utilized some of their split pushing and kind of forced LGD around the map in order to open up certain things like that Roshan. So very dominant 2-0 to MVP. Our analysts either have a lot to talk about or very little. I'm not quite sure which.
Thank you so much, Captain Blitz. Indeed, a sight to behold here. MVP put on a clinic against LGD and shut them down 2-0. And we were anticipating in game number 2, LGD were kind of pulling out something a bit different and something they might have needed here, breaking away from their disciplined style. They got their early grab of the Earth Spirit, a lone druid grab for Sylar, and certainly based on the early game, it looked like things were going pretty swimmingly for them, but suddenly something somewhere went wrong so fast, and the game ends with a Dagon Invoker and 3 Vite boosters on a Febby Wisp. Gentlemen, this is going to be a fun one to break down. Again, they are going to be prepping for our winners interview, so I apologize ahead of time if I'm going to be cutting any of you off, but I welcome back again to the panel, of course, Winter, Merlini, Draskell, and of course, Cinderin. So, Winter, I start with you. It felt like a strong start for LGD, and I can't help but ask the common question, what happened?
They were just too fast for LGD.
Winter.
Sorry, my bad. They were just too fast for LGD, I think. Like, the way they played, and LGD played the game like their usual game. Like, the draft was definitely better than what they had in the first game, but everything was just like way too slow. They had to wait for a lot of stuff, and they had the lone druid. And despite their early game, it was just still not enough for them. Like, when it comes to mid game, when they have relocate, and there's a few fights where they wanted to kill the Bristleback, but they just expended so much resources to kill him, and they lost way too many heroes just for one Bristleback.
Ben, what was your take on the game?
There were some weird mechanical things, like maybe trying to kill Bristle from behind and then just dying. They also just took Roach way too early. You said like 10, 11 before draft, and they ended up taking around 9. And Ursa needs to like be around that area to always threaten the Roach too. But if you're Ursa and you can't get Roach, you can't get first or second Roach, the game's pretty over.
He's on Radiant though.
Yeah, he's on Radiant, right? But like, if you have Ursa in your lineup, you have to tailor your lineup so that you can get that first Roach very early, because it's just such a big advantage. It doesn't matter if you have worse late game, but if you can contest Roach, that's okay. But you know, it's weird when your lone Druid is the one like making the plays, getting kills early. If like, where's everyone else on the map? I guess they tried a little bit with Earth Spirit, but as you said, too fast.
Well, I think one of the biggest issues that they had actually was the core matchup. I think for MVP heavily favored them because they let Earth Spirit go in the first phase, right? But then they picked Bristle and Jug, 2 heroes who I still feel are very strong against Earth Spirit throughout like pretty much every single stage of the game, right? And the consistencies that I saw in the drafting for LGD was they kind of lack a lot of damage. You know, they kind of pick these lineups to have a decent mix of physical and magic, but they don't have any like, we can get a hero isolated and kill it straight away. I think Winter mentioned during the draft that there was no way to quickly kill the Wisp. And I feel like that actually came back to bite them, because even if you do really well in the laning phase, we saw that amazing fissure block early, the nice ES rotations from LGD, there eventually becomes a point where you're hitting this mid-game timing with Jug and Bristle, and you don't have a good target. Like, who do you go on?
Cinder, and I have to ask here, how much of this series is MVP being that good or LGD off their game?
What are you doing, Andy?
Please
No,
don't
it
distract him.
funny
I'm trying to
because-
ask him a question over here.
His microphone was just pointing the other way. That's
Okay,
all.
fair
I
enough.
was just
Thank you so
helping.
much. I appreciate it.
What if I
We have a
like-
lot of hats we have
If
to
you
wear
want it
around
pointing
here.
down, you're welcome to have it pointing down.
All right. I think it's mainly MVP being good, but honestly, LGD drafted in a way that didn't allow them to shine, I think. It's a bad matchup for them. We talked about it going in, but I think in both games they could have drafted better for themselves. Again, in this game, I think MMY, he did his best. He really did his best, but he's playing the only active hero they have early. They're combining it with a Visage, very defensive lane support until he gets levels, needs to find that level 6. Lone Druid, very defensive laner. Ursa, sure, you can fight, but you need a couple of core items first before you can even engage. And I think he went phase into Mask into Blink. I don't even know if he didn't even fully free farm in his lane, but if he does, you get those items, I think, at about 10, 12 minutes maybe. They already lost Roche at that point. So it just went, it goes way too fast for them.
Sorry to interrupt you, Cinder. It sounds like we have our interview ready to go, so let's send it to the stage with the winner.
当中，其实不止在刚刚的比赛当中，在整个比赛，包括小组赛 ，MVP 的表现都让人觉得有惊喜。然后我们就是想知道，对于这些惊喜 ，MVP 是怎么看待的？然后他们获得这场比赛的胜利之后，心情是如何？
So throughout the group stage in this tournament, your performance has been very surprising to a lot of people. So what do you say to that? And now that you've taken one step closer to the finals, how do you feel?
First, I think, well, as I said before in the interview, like we kind of figure out like what to do in this meta, and then, well, like everyone's like high-skilled player in our team. That's what I feel. Well, we just had the bad drafts or like didn't have a like deep drafts. So I think we've been having a struggle this like until before now. But I think we know like how to draft and we know how to play our games. And then I'm happy that I win.
就是我以前说过，我们要对这版本要识破这版本，要知道怎么去 BP，怎么选英雄，就是最适合这版本的阵容。那现在以前别的队可能表现没那么好，可是我们现在好像学到了很多，所以发挥得很好。
哦，原来是这样子的。那 QO 觉得在本次比赛当中有哪些队伍是他们觉得是强劲的对手呢？
So in this competition, who do you think are the strongest teams left in the main event?
Well, we thought it was Alliance, and then I think they still are because they have like few different styles, and then it's like all hard to expect. But maybe so as EG, like and we didn't even scream EG for once, so yeah, one of two. Yeah, EG.
我们一开始认为是 A 队，不过我们觉得，比如说 EG，别的外国队也是比较强的，因为他们阵容会有很多变化。
好的，非常感谢 QO 接受我们的采访。接下来我们交回分析台。
All right, so very happy MVP squad. That's a matchup I'm looking forward to. Them versus EG, a team that didn't even have a chance to scrim against. They were anxious against going against Alliance. Obviously, we saw the series earlier, a bit of an upset there. We are going to be cutting to a small break, but I want to ask one more question to my panel before we go. When you're doing that well in a game and you're deciding to pull out a Dagon, a couple of Vipe boosters, how would you guys classify that? Is it BM or is it seizing the opportunity to be a bit more efficient?
Style points.
Style points?
Having
Style
fun.
points.
Having fun?
Clearly a bug.
A bug.
3 vitality boosts is legit.
You would report though, right, Winter, for that? If someone did that in your game, just report.
Yeah, but we're winning the game.
You're winning, you don't
Yeah,
care.
why
You would still report.
No, if
Probably
we're
stars a report, then he retracted if possible.
No, I would never report it if we are.
I would
winning.
commend them
For teaching. Oh, 3 vitality boosters are good on IO. And
for style points, man.
style points.
So
are good.
MVP gets our approval here, and they still continue to look like one of the scariest teams out there. So what we'll do now is we'll cut to a break. When we return, we begin to go into the lower bracket now. Our